we're making a Christmas gift, a crochet Christmas gift. So for this one, what I want to do, well, I've already made a practice, but I keep seeing how people take their charging cords and they crochet them to look like vines, or like they'll add flowers too. I want to do that for my cousin. Actually, I think I'll do that for both of my cousins. Both my cousins I'm seeing at Family Christmas. So I'm also using this as a stash buster. So I'm only using, I have a lot of green yarn, okay? I like green, if you can't tell. So I'm also using this as a stash buster to get rid of my yarn. So I've made a practice find. So the only thing I have left to do is to weave in this little end. But this is a 10-foot charging cable, and I used this yarn. It is Yarn Bee. It's an ombre, and I've already lost the paper to it. I'm sure it's in this room somewhere. When I find it, I'll put it on the screen here so that you'll know, but it is Yarn Bee. I know that much. So this 10-foot cable took about, I would say, half of this ball of yarn, so I have like another half left. And basically I wanted to use this ombre because I had originally gotten this to color pull, and if you don't know what color pulling is, it's how you do plaid without like mapping it out. It's doing plaid by just, I'm trying to figure out a good way to explain this. It's doing plaid, but like all of the color change is in the thread itself. So all you're doing is the same like single crochet or double crochet, and you're just making each stitch, like this shade of green will have 3 stitches, this shade of green will have 2 stitches, and like each shade has a certain amount of stitches, and then as you build it up, it makes the plaid pattern as just by the colors of the thread. Look it up on YouTube. There are women who are amazing at it, who are making all sorts of YouTube videos about it, who can explain it so much better than me. But anyway, a few months ago, I went down a rabbit hole where I was like, color pulling seems so cool, and I watched so many YouTube videos on it. And then I tried it with like 5 different yarns. I even went out, this is one of the like 3 yarns that I bought one time, that I bought specifically because I saw people in a color pulling tutorial use this yarn and made it color pull, and made it, and it worked. And I was like, maybe I'm just using yarn that doesn't color pull, so let me get yarn that I know for sure does. But no, my problem is my tension is too exact. It's too like the same for color pulling. Color pulling really fucks with your tension because you're adjusting your tension less, like loosening it and tightening it depending on how many stitches you need for each color. And that doesn't compute with me or my hands. And no matter how hard I try, it's a no from me. So I just have these like different shades of ombre yarn that are for color pulling. So I was like, let's use it, right? So I almost hit myself with that. So I have this ombre yarn, and I was like, I wonder if I can get it to look like a variegated vine. Variegated is when like you have a plant and it's like multiple colors. Like I have a variegated string of hearts that I love dearly. And so I was like, let me see if I can make a variegated string of hearts with this yarn. And I followed a YouTube tutorial that I will link down in the description to figure out how to make the little heart shapes. And I made this. And it did work, I will say. It did make the variegation. Let me show you some examples. Little variegation. Little variegation. Now, I do have some, that one's not variegated, but like here, got a little bit of green there. Like it did work, for sure. I do have some thoughts and feelings. just about, this was my test. This is my charger, my charging cord. I used a 5mm hook, and I think that made them too small, like made the leaves too small. I would have liked my leaves to be bigger. So I'm going to use probably a 6.5 on the next cord that I make so that the leaves are like nice and big. So that's my one, that's one of the critiques. Another critique is they do curl. And I don't know if that's more so because I was just using such a small hook with this yarn, which it could very well be, or if that's just kind of what they do, because I'm very tempted to take some needle and thread and just like tack the ends open. And this is mine, so I can do that because I can do whatever I want. I'm not giving it to someone. It doesn't need to be perfect. This was my test, right? So variegation did work, but bigger leaves, bigger hook, and we'll see about the curling issue. Also, this yarn on the piece of paper, on the wrapper that I lost already, said to use a 6 hook, and I was like, no, I use a 5 because it looks like thin, like, you know, it's 4-weight yarn. I've been using like a 5 with my, what have I been doing? On my temperature blanket, I've been using a 5 with 4-weight yarn, but it's, I love this yarn, obviously a different brand. So that's what we've learned so far. But this was my test. It was successful. I do like it. I will keep it on. I'm not gonna like take it off. I do still think it looks nice, even though I think the leaves are too small. So that was my test. So now I think I have 2 older cousins I'm gonna see at Christmas. And one of them I'm for sure making a vine not with the hearts. I'm doing it with like normal leaves. And then the other one, so I think I'm gonna make her one of these with bigger leaves. So I think that's what I'm gonna do with the rest of this little ball of yarn. And then for my other cousin, she recently had twins, a boy and a girl, and I made her baby blankets, one for each baby, out of her 2 colors, which were sage green and Highland cow orange. Very specific. And I have leftovers from when I made those baby blankets for her. And I also have this leftover from a different baby blanket. So what I'm thinking is combining these and making like a 2-colored vine, like make half of it in green and half of it in orange, because then it's like her 2 baby colors. I thought that would be cute. But this one I am gonna do a vine with like the normal pointed leaves, not the heart-shaped leaves, just because I think it's cuter to be using the baby blanket colors and make it more vine-like than trying to like mimic a plant with colors that string of hearts don't come in orange, right? So those are what we're doing. Both of them are going to be 10-foot cables, I think. I for sure have a 10-foot cable for one. I think I have a 10-foot cable. If not, I'm gonna go get one. Let me tell y'all something. Any cable, any charging cord that's shorter than 10 feet is trash. And like 3 feet barely works on my nightstand. I fucking hate short charging cords. And like 6 feet is okay. It's better. But 10 feet is where it's at, and 10 feet are the only charging cables you will ever need. And they sell them on Amazon in packs of like 3, 5, whatever the fuck, for like $7. Like I got this one, and this one in a pack on Amazon for like $7, right? Okay, so definitely doing that. Okay, so I think I'm gonna do the combined colored ones first and just kind of see how that turns out. Oh, I also forgot to mention, when I did this, I did not follow her tutorial exactly. I messed around with two different things. So a normal leaf from the tutorial was chain 5, and then double crochets are all on the inside with a single crochet, with a single chain in between each. And then this little peak is a little cluster of 3 chains, and then double crochet again, and then she had a chain of 4, and now a chain of 4 and a slip stitch to connect them all together. So when I started doing that, I noticed a lot of them were looking like this, where I know it's curling a little bit and it's kind of hard to see, but the side that I end on is raised up more than the side that I began on. And it was kind of bothering me. Like, that's a good example. Like, the side I ended on is more raised than the side I began on. And I think that was because this chain is too long. So instead of doing 4 chains, I did like 3. And that kind of fixed that issue. And then what I also started experimenting with was what type of stitch I would do in the leaves. Because, like I said, the tutorial I watched called for double crochet. I did some leaves double, half double, single, and triple. And those are all American terms. So like, let me find an example of a big boy. So like this is a triple, and then here's a double. I mean, not a double, here's a half double, makes it smaller. Let's see, where's a single? I think this one is a single. Basically, I was doing the same pattern, but just different stitch styles because I was trying to make size differences in the leaves. I wanted them to look more natural, and I feel like if they're all evenly spaced and they're all exactly the same size, then it looks less natural. And the tutorial called for even space, all the same size. So those are the 2 changes I made. Do with that what you will. That's just what I'm doing. And so I am going to do that with the rest of the cords I make, where I'm going to make them different sizes and use different stitches to make them different sizes, different lengths apart. Try to make it a little more realistic looking. That's what we're going with. Welcome back. It is another night. It's many nights later, technically. But I have let it go. Oh my god. I finished the cord for my cousin who had twins out of the different colors of her baby blankets. And it turned out really cute. And I like it a lot. I basically split it in half, where it's like half oranges and half greens. And then did the same like little heart vine leaves. And it's very soft because it's used by baby yarn. Now, I will say, after making this, I wouldn't recommend baby yarn. I really wouldn't. It doesn't want to be wrapped around a cord because it wants to like split. And so even when you use like different hook sizes but trying to wrap it around a cord, it really wants to split, and that's super annoying. So like I wouldn't recommend a baby blanket. So far my best yarn has been the variegated yarn, which I used for my cord, and because it doesn't split when I'm trying to like wrap it around the cord, it sticks to itself very nicely. So wouldn't recommend baby blanket yarn. I think these were all like 3 weight, and I think I used a 5 crochet hook or something like that. I used a bigger hook than what it recommends because I was trying to make the leaves bigger. But yeah, I would not recommend baby yarn or like tiny yarn, like 3-weight yarn. I wouldn't recommend. So this one was 4-weight yarn, right? Okay, now I was making another one and I finished it, right? And this one is the same yarn, the same yarn bee yarn, right? I just used a bigger hook, so it made my leaves bigger, and it worked. It worked really well. I really like it. I think it looks really nice, and I did it. And this is for my other cousin, her sister. And here's the problem, because you may be looking at me like, why do you seem agitated about the cord? Like, it looks good and you finished it. It does look good, and I did finish it. Here's what I'm agitated about. I can't tell if it's focusing. Sure. Do you see that? This is a lightning cable. This is for iPhones. Guess who I remember doesn't have an iPhone? Guess who has green chat bubbles? My cousin. So what I actually did was make myself a second charging cord. That's what I actually did. And you may be like, but wait, maybe she has like an iPad or a MacBook or something. No. No, everything she has uses a USB-C. Everything she has uses a USB-C. But I am annoyed because I'm out of yarn. And I don't want to go get more yarn. But this used up the last of that roll of yarn, and I only had one roll because, again, I got it for color pooling, and that didn't work. So I have another yarn that is also green ombre. It's just darker green. It's more like camo colors. So I think I'm gonna try that. And the one I'm also debating is whether or not she's gonna get a 10-foot charging cable, because now I'm irritated because she doesn't have an iPhone. So she may be getting a whatever charging cable I can find, because I'm annoyed because I did this work apparently for myself. So now this video is also longer than I wanted it to be. Not that I had a set length, I just didn't want to make another cord. It's not like it takes long. I'm just like annoyed that I did it without like looking at our text messages and realizing that her chat bubble is green and that I've seen her phone I don't know how many times and that it's a Samsung, and it just didn't occur to me. Like, it's not very Virgo of me. It's not very Virgo coded of me to not remember shit like this. But anyway, that's my life update. Also, if you're wondering, my shirt says Ghost Malone. I like crew necks, and I like themed crew necks, so that's where we are. We'll see where my next update takes me. Okay, new day again, but last installment of Vine Quartz. I went to the store and I bought a, what are these called? USB-C charger, because my cousin has an Android because she's a problem. And I did not have any more of the yarn bee yarn that I was using to make this version of the variegated yarn. This is 2 quarts together. to make this version of the variegated string of hearts. But I did have some other yarn bee yarn, which I will also have to look up to see what it is, but I'll put it in here. And it has a much smaller variegation. Well, it has a much smaller like turn. Like there's a lot less space between where the colors shift. But I don't think it's bad. It's still the colors of the leaves. It still gives variegation. I still think it looks nice. And so she still has a variegated cord, even if it wasn't the original yarn that I wanted to use, because she has a problem. And yes, I will be telling her that when I give this to her. So I have my cousins. I have my other cousins out of baby yarn. And I have mine. And that is Christmas present number whatever. It's done. I'm excited to give it to him, but I'm also very glad it's done. So I'll see you guys next time.